From harsh trash talks and fistfights with fellow teammates to tragic business failures, these are Michael Jordan's most controversial moments. First up, let's start with Jordan's fight with Steve Kerr. Now, it's no secret, Michael Jordan is a renowned bully on the court. With his intense competitive spirit, he'd constantly push his teammates, never settling for less than a stellar performance on the court. In fact, one might argue that it's this very spirit that garnered him and his team the success they achieved. But sometimes, Michael just blatantly overstepped his boundaries. One such incident occurred when MJ came back to the Bulls after a mini-retirement. In a heated exchange that broke out on court, MJ punched his fellow teammate Steve Kerr in the face, leaving him with a black eye. Yeah, you heard that right. Apparently, Kerr was offended by something Jordan had said and decided to stand up for himself, leading to a heated scuffle. And a sore nose? And did Mighty Michael atone for his sin, you ask? Well, the larger-than-life player was given a slap on the wrist, of course, and told to walk it off. But hey, what did you expect? It's MJ. MJ was so revered that when asked about the incident later on, Kerr commented, "It was one of the best things that ever happened for me. I needed to stand up and go back at him. I think I earned some respect." He continued stating, "But we have a great relationship ever since. You gotta prove it, and then once you prove it, you're fine." As if that wasn't enough ass kissing. On a separate occasion, he interpreted the incident as a test from Michael, stating, "For me in that case, Michael was definitely testing me, and I responded. I feel like I kind of passed the test, and he trusted me more afterwards." Well, what can I say? When Jordan decides to test you, be sure to talk back. But maybe do it outside the reach of his long-ass arms. Which brings us to the next controversial bit, Michael Jordan's first retirement. Yeah, you heard it. Despite his seemingly lustrous career, Michael Jordan actually prematurely retired from the sport back in 1993. Now keep in mind, this came after Jordan had secured his third consecutive NBA championship. He was at the height of his fame, had more endorsement deals than anyone in the sport, and his Bulls were on top of the world. Everyone expected yet another dominant run from Jordan and the gang. Instead, Jordan would hang up his Jordan Airs, trading them for a baseball mitt instead. A baseball mitt. Well, yeah. MJ would shock the world of basketball by pursuing a short-lasting career in minor league baseball. Why, you wonder? Well, some speculate it had something to do with the death of his father. MJ learned earlier that year that his father had been murdered, allegedly because of a mafia hit due to Michael's unpaid gambling debt. But we'll come to gambling bit later on. His baseball career would go on to last 13 months, only to end when he missed a spot in the major leagues, largely due to a strike by major league players. I guess you might even say it was his last strike. But regardless of how short-lived his baseball run was, it brought a whole lot of attention to the sport. Some might argue it was the best thing that happened to baseball. I mean, what better endorsement than an MJ endorsement, right? This is the guy who brought us the Jordans after all. Remember that guy? Remember the Jays? And now, since we are talking about teams, it brings us to the next controversial bit. When Michael left Isiah Thomas off the Dream Team, yes, the memories, the infamous Dream Team, a team of the NBA's Elite Four sent to represent the USA in the Olympics for the first time in 1992. Many consider it the greatest collection of basketball talent ever assembled. However, there was one individual notably absent from the pack, the great Isiah Thomas. Despite being one of the best point guards of the time and meeting all the criteria in the selection process, poor Thomas was left out in the rain. It simply made zero sense. Word in the street was that Jordan had a major part to play in all this. Allegedly, he influenced U.S. head coach Chuck Daly to keep the two-time NBA champion Isiah off the team by refusing to play in the same team as him. Daly would instead pick the less qualified Christian Laettner. And why? Well, perhaps MJ's long-standing rivalry with Thomas made him put pressure on the coach. It's alleged their bitter rivalry began when Thomas conspired to keep Jordan out of the All-Star game in 1985. To top it off, Isiah had openly snubbed Michael on many different occasions, even refusing to shake his hand during the playoff season. This petty rivalry would come to cost Isiah one of the best winning sprees in Olympic history. The team proved its worth, going on to win every gold medal except one in 2004. When asked about this rivalry, Michael has repeatedly denied them over the years. On a separate occasion, he notably stated, "The best point guard of all time is Magic Johnson, and right behind him is Isiah Thomas. No matter how much I hate him, I respect his game." Well, say what you will about respect, but hate is a strong letter word, Michael. and it doesn't help your case either. Another notable blemish on Jordan's legacy happened when Jordan chose to remain silent over Nike's unfair labor practices. Nike is a company that frequently preached social justice and equality, shocked the world when it was found to be using sweatshops in Indonesia, China, and Vietnam. Now being the face of the Air Jordan brand and a celebrity with major influence, many expected the athlete to address the unfair labor practices happening in the Nike factories. However, when media personality Kathie Lee Gifford tried to get the player to oppose the company's sweatshop labor, Jordan had this to say: "I heard that Kathie Lee has kind of put me and other people in her fight or whatever. But I think that's Nike's decision to do what they can to make sure everything is correctly done," he continued. "I don't know the complete situation. Why should I? I'm trying to do my job. Hopefully, Nike will do the right thing, whatever that might be." Many would argue that he prioritized his endorsement deal instead of standing up for workers' rights. For me, I think he was just being ignorant. Either way, Nike would eventually come to close down a horde of its factories and rising wages to save its tainted image. But as for Michael, his reputation never fully recovered to this day. On to our next point of critique, Jordan's failure as a businessman. Now, judging by his immense success on the court and plethora of lucrative deals, you might expect Jordan to flourish in the business world right off the bat. But Jordan would come to discover his inadequate business acumen when his foray into team ownership with the Washington Wizards failed to yield the same triumph as his playing days. Critiques would point this to mismanagement and questionable personnel decisions made by Jordan and his team, such as trading the then promising Rip Hamilton or drafting Kwame Brown. In an effort to save the team, Jordan would even add himself to the team's starting lineup, a move that made him give up his stakes in the team. However, even with the legendary MJ, the Wizards still didn't make it to the playoffs in his 2 seasons there. But his failures didn't end there. He would go on to purchase the Charlotte Bobcats, later renamed Hornets, for about $175 million. Unfortunately, he didn't do any better there due to ill-informed drafting and hiring an army of yes-men instead of competent executives. The team has only made playoffs 2 times since his purchase in 2010. Now that's some tough luck. Next up, his gambling problem. Yet another extremely controversial aspect of Jordan's life. There was a wide speculation in the basketball world about Jordan's love for high-stakes gambling. One of the more outrageous claims were that in one of his trips to Vegas during games with the Bulls, he lost $5 million in a single night. Now, while they were largely speculative and lacked any concrete evidence, there were some instances that would say otherwise. The most popular happened in 1993 during the Eastern Conference Finals against the New York Knicks. It is reported that Jordan went on a gambling trip to Atlantic City and allegedly went a little overboard. When asked about the matter on The Last Dance, he said, "We got a limo, we went and gambled for a couple of hours, and we came back." Further adding, "Everybody went totally ballistic. It wasn't late. We got home by 12:31. However, New York Times would refute this statement, claiming he was seen out at 2:30. It did not look good either the following night when the Bulls lost the second game, largely due to Jordan's underwhelming performance. But that's not all. Things didn't look good for Michael either when one Richard Keynes, a recovering gambling addict, published a book titled Michael and Me, where he described MJ's alleged problems. He claimed Jordan owed him a whopping $1.2 million in debt, gambling in golf bets. Of course, Jordan denied this, as Keynes would come out later claiming they settled the debt with a $300,000 payment. Another memorable instance was when Michael skimped out on the Bulls' White House trip after winning the NBA Finals. It's reported that he chose to instead go gambling with convicted cocaine dealer and golf shop owner James Buhler. Now, true or not, the mere association with these allegations stirred controversy about his behavior as a professional athlete. On to the trash talk. Now, first of all, it's important to realize that trash talk is quite normal in basketball games. One might even say it's part of the sport. However, it would seem Jordan's trash-talking prowess exceeded what was considered normal. On one occasion, Jordan was accused of bullying his teammate Bill Cartwright after he joined the Bulls in 1998 and replacing his friend Charles Oakley. He would taunt him of having bad hands, intentionally through bad passes, going as far as dubbing Medical Bill. Damn, this would surely be enough to traumatize any newbie. But poor Cartwright was only one of his victims. MJ is reported to have openly called Rodney McCrawley a loser in practice after he came to Chicago as a reserve forward. His harsh tongue has been associated with the decline of Muggsy Bogues, as attested by former Bulls assistant coach Johnny Batch. During a game against the Charlotte Hornets in 1995, Jordan allegedly told Bogues, "Shoot it, you midget," referring to his 5'3" frame. Apparently, Bogues, the shortest player to ever play the NBA, missed the shot thereafter. And unfortunately, his season in the NBA has never been better after that. I think Michael needs to take a damn chill pill. While his competitiveness and drive surely pushed him to achieve greatness, his conduct was never universally accepted. But love him or hate him, MJ knew how to get the job done. One might even argue his controversial moments only further fueled the legend around his name. From disheartening remarks to his teammates to making no comments about human rights violations, this was Michael Jordan's most controversial moments.